I can't breathe, baby. Seriously.
Yeah, that's when you do and you choke me.
So then it's like, we decided to play hide and seek, right? Okay. So he gets in the suitcase. The problem is I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
Will the jury find the defendant guilty of murder in the second degree as charged in the information?
Suitcase Sarah Boone, convicted of the murder of her boyfriend Jorge Torres. You know what happened. She zipped him shut in a suitcase. He pleaded for his life, begged her. She broke out her cell phone, recorded him, taunted him, then went upstairs to sleep. And in the morning, George had passed away, and now she's a convicted murderer. Today, in court being sentenced. Let's take a look.
Court pronounces sentence as follows. Ms. Boone, court sentences you to life in the Department of Corrections with credit time served that Madam Clerk will provide to you momentarily.
Oh, that's a problem. Life in Florida. Yeah, you're looking for parole? Not happening. So Sarah Boone sentenced to life. But the real headline came before she was sentenced, which was when she had an opportunity to speak to the court. So she got up, went on the witness stand, and wow, take a look.
I forgive George for beating me senseless, for trying to sleep because I had to go to work or my son's field trip the next day, for ruining my deceased family's heirlooms, traditions, and keepsakes, my son's furniture, destroying the television we watched together, for wrecking our townhome by breaking windows, punching holes in the walls and doors, ramming his entire body into glass doors, kicking in my front and back door over and over and over, for breaking or removing the locks from all of the doors and sometimes the knobs altogether, so I had nowhere to feel safe, including the sacred space of my son's room where he beat me bloody on his bed. For terrorizing and threatening my blind and deaf dogs by leaving the gate open I built to keep them safe, telling me he hoped I'd find their bloated dead body in the pond or scrape their remains off of the pavement, for kicking them off of the bed and throwing across the room because they were trying to protect me, for threatening to make me unrecognizable to my son by breaking all of the bones in my face, like his brother Moses did to him after he kept seeing all of the bruises from George beating me, like all of the times their father beat their mother, for all of the drunken rages and fist fights with so many neighbors when wandering into their apartments during hunting expeditions after I had escaped, for drowning me in liquor and wine because I didn't want to drink, causing me to urinate on myself, then butting the end of the bottle in my face, giving me 2 black eyes and a bloody nose, for making me experience what it is to be sodomized, threatening to kill my friends and the neighbors when they checked on me to make sure I was alive and in one piece, for threatening to burn down our townhome and set my car on fire because I got a job, for holding me hostage on weekends my son was supposed to come over by keeping my keys around his neck, my phone in his crotch, and a butcher knife stuck in the middle of the table as a warning not to ask anything or try to leave, for stabbing me in the leg and not letting me call 911 for an ambulance or seek help, where I nearly bled to death until I concocted a lie to save him from being arrested, for destroying my phone with a hammer because my son called, for me experiencing ever being arrested and after today, prison, for beating me almost blind, crushing my occipital lobe, for having me experience what it means to see stars like in the cartoons where a character has a tall lump on their head. I had that too, and many times, for dragging me downstairs by my hair in the middle of the night just to sit next to him. I forgive myself for falling in love with a monster, and I wrote him letters. I wrote his family and his daughters, apologizing for asking for their forgiveness, but due to fear that my life or sons would be jeopardized, I did not send. I am sorry. I cannot begin to fathom any of their grief and sadness. Please forgive me. Almost everything reminds me of him, seeing my stab wound every day especially. It truly reminds me that all I really did live through. George haunts me. He is everywhere. I believe because I do still love him, think of him, and miss his laugh the most. In my heart, I know he is with me and understands that this tragedy was not intentional. I hope everyone can, his family foremost. I didn't mean for this to happen. Please wholeheartedly know that, and always, I would never. Forgive me, George. Forgive me, Torres family. Forgive me, Judge Kraynick. To the entire planet, please forgive me. I graciously and humbly ask for consideration for forgiveness to be extended instead of judgment.
She's forgiving the man that she murdered for all that he did to her. Like, I understand it, right? I get it. I get that what her defense was, etc. But this is the moment where the judge is deciding how long to send you to prison. And you're going after the victim. You're going after his family. Unbelievable moment by Sarah Boone. But at least she's being honest. She's being herself. She didn't pretend to cry or anything. Let's bring back in our think tank. Still with us, Al Wunsch, Darnell Crossland, Jennifer Brandt. Hey, Darnell, how do you like that performance? You know, it's time to be sentenced. Let's go after the victim and his family.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit bizarre. She probably forgives the judge for having to come to court that day and having to waste gas to come down there. So obviously she wasn't advised properly about what sentencing is about, and she didn't show any sorts of sense of remorse. Again, she's the one who's forgiving people. And then she slid in there when she forgave herself. So she gave herself clemency. And she's probably going to call Biden and see if she can get a Hunter Biden pardon while she's at it. So she's definitely on the road towards life sentence that she got, and she did nothing to help herself.
Yeah. Jennifer, at least, you know, I'll give her points for not pretending, right? She didn't, like, put on the crocodile tears. She was who she was. She is who she is. And she just laid it all out there.
And I think, Vinny, in some ways she believes this is really what she believes. She did say that she had a battered woman or battered spouse defense. I mean, that was her defense. And so she truly believes that, you know, all these terrible things happened to her, and not that she meant to kill him, but sort of that, you know, this is what happened as a result of all of that. She had him in the suitcase and, you know, wanted him to experience, she said, you know, how it felt to be choked, how it felt to be cheated on, and all these different things. So in some way, she was trying to convey to the judge that, you know, this was sort of his fault. I mean, he made her do this by beating her and raping her and sodomizing her and all the terrible things that she said or alleged that he did. Of course, he can't defend himself. She's saying, you know, this is why I had to do what I did, and you know, everyone should sort of forgive me for that. So I think in some twisted way, she was trying to plead clemency and get the judge to sympathize with her.
She blamed everyone, Al. She went after, right, the victim, the family, and then she went after the folks on social media. She came after the media for all the blood money that we're making from her. And she blamed that family that's crying in the front row for not preventing this from happening.
Yep. Well, you know, there's Geraldine, a character of Flip Wilson, used to say, "The devil made me do it." And that's what's going on with this. The one thing that's interesting, though, Vin, is that, you know, we always get accused, meaning defense attorneys, of writing our clients, like, you know, notes to the court, statement before sentencing, things along those lines. And always it's thrown in our faces to say, well, Your Honor, we know that that's not really what the defendant was thinking. This is written by his attorney, and he's just reading the words, or she's just reading the words that are there, and she doesn't mean it. Well, in this case, it demonstrates that not always do we get a chance to write with what our client should be saying in front of the judge before sentencing. This is absolutely atrocious. For her to have done that, to basically dehumanize the man she murdered, is just absolutely disgusting. I mean, it's a horrific thing to do. And then to say at the end, you know, basically she forgives him, okay, and that they should forgive her. Okay, it's absolutely horrific. This is disgusting. I don't know what her attorney must be. If I was her attorney, I would have walked out in the middle of it.
Well, he's not going to walk out. He took the case because he saw this segment on our show. And it may have been with you guys. And she was looking for an attorney. He stepped in. He did, God's work, keeping our system of justice working here. But at the end of the day, she is who she is. She hasn't changed her stripes. She's very honest in what she says and what she presents. No crocodile tears. She didn't try to humanize herself. I mean, the same person who was making that video was the same person in court today. So anyway.
She tried to humanize herself. She tried to humanize herself by saying that she was the victim.
Yeah, I know, but like how she said it, and it didn't work. All right, everyone staying with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about the victim's family. They were in court today, and you get to see the other side of this when we return.
They're going to know what we're here, what we're investigating, and that they're going to think I killed him.
Why would they think that?
They always have said that. They've always have said that.
What have they
I
said?
told you it's because I'm the blue-eyed white dragon. That's what they call me. Because they don't want him with me. So he's basically just not really been around his family because he chooses me over them.
That's Sarah Boone. Actually, it's the afternoon. I was going to say it's the morning, but it's really she waited till the afternoon to call 911. They responded. And she's talking there about George, his family, and how they didn't get along. Well, that was clear. But today, the family got to provide their victim impact statements. Let's take a listen.
My son is not here no more. She don't only kill my son, she killed a father, a brother, an uncle. It's been hard on my family because all the brothers, they will always work together. But now it's like something real. Love is missing. Sometimes when I look out the window, I'm waiting for him to come and say, Mom, I love you. She was always there. She come and called me. I missed us, Mommy. The last time that I talked to him was at 12 o'clock in January, New Year. He came to my bed and said, Mom. He woke me up and I said, Mom, I love you. Happy New Year. Since that day, I don't see him no more. He was my son. I love him. And I miss him a lot. My family miss him a lot too. But I don't hear her. But you know what? I was blessed. She ain't gonna be blessed like me because I have my son. I raised him. I have his children, my granddaughter, my grandson, and she don't gonna be able to have that. And I did. I raised him. He wasn't perfect, but he was a good son.
Unfortunately, my family has experienced two horrifying tragedies. And I just want to make it clear that George deserves justice. As far as my other brother and Sarah deserve to rot in jail. Sarah has caused a lifetime of pain, a lifetime of horrible images, a lifetime of hearing my brother George plead for his life. This is just this moment for all of you. For me and my family, it's forever. Such a simple thing as using a suitcase. It's so triggering. I try not to close it all the way.
He was human and deserved to be treated as such. My father, Jorge Torres, was one of a kind, an absolute gem. Unfortunately, his light was dimmed on earth by evilness, but with us, we will forever make his name live on. Especially Sarah. I pray that you see his face when you see him at night.
I think Tank's still with me, Al, Darnell, and Jennifer. Jennifer, it was so simple. All she had to do was unzip the suitcase. And now the family, obviously, they've seen the video, they've seen the evidence. I think all of us, when we think of this case, we think of the moment where he's literally, we hear a man pleading for his life, get not only ignored, but taunted at that moment.
I know, and just that she was actually present and took videos of it. I mean, it's horrific that what kind of person is she to allow this to happen? And you can see that, you know, despite all the bad things that she said about him, he had a family, they loved him, they cared for him, they talked about all his good qualities. You know, he was a father, he was a brother, he was a son, and she took that away from them. And I think the judge, you know, listened to them, and that was part of his decision to give her life. Also listened to her, for sure. But you see a different side of him. You see him as a human being, as somebody who was loved, who had family, and who will be sorely missed by his family. So it definitely will affect them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, Al, that voice is so important on sentencing day, because during the course of the trial, you heard so much, you know, the allegations by Sarah. You heard much more detailed allegations today by Sarah against George, almost, you know, remaking the case that he deserved to die, that she forgives him for all that he did. But here we get to see the rest of the story, and perhaps the most important part of the story, which is the life that he had and the life that is now lost.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's hard enough to, you know, deal with knowing a loved one was murdered. It's even worse when you see what was done and how he was murdered. And that's what they have. They have a video of how he was murdered, and how he was taunted, and how he pled for his life, and how he was disregarded, and then turning it up and having the murderer belittle him and try to disgrace him in front of the court, in front of his family. I mean, it is just an absolute horrific scenario that you have a person die as tragically as he does with her videotaping it. It's just heartless, absolutely heartless. And there's nothing she can say to justify that by any stretch of the imagination. If he was that horrible, call the police, have him arrested.
Well, police were there.
And let him go down.
And he was arrested, and then she was there the following morning bailing him out. Darnell?
That's my point.
Something that George's mother said, she said, you know, he wasn't perfect. And what I say to that is, none of us are perfect. There's only been one perfect being that walked the earth, but none of us are perfect, and that's the way victims are. And for her to be up there and to explain that this is my son, and she's going to carry that with her the rest of her life.
Yeah, it was tragic, and if you don't understand trauma, it's something that is very real. And my clients, you know, come before the office all the time. Sometimes I send them out to get mitigation reports. And when I read these things, I learn more about them through reading these mitigation reports. When they talked about how this is so hard to just even zip up a suitcase, it broke my heart. So I think she got what she deserves.